Welcome to Office Hours Online. I'm Ken Goldstein from the Department of Political Science at UW-Madison. Joining me is Charles Franklin, my colleague in the Political Science Department and a frequent guest on Office Hours. Charles is not only a professor in the Department of Political Science, but also is a co-founder of Pollster.com, which is my go-to source for all public opinion data. So Charles, let's do a quick summary of what's going on in terms of public attitudes, and let's start with attitudes towards the economy. How are attitudes towards the economy changing, and how are they influencing attitudes towards President Obama?
Well, you know, we've seen real pessimism about the economy in terms of how it is right now. Almost nobody says it's doing great. But there's been some growth in the prospects for the future. The way that's translated into President Obama's support is that his approval is a little under 50%. It's actually 48 approve, 46 disapprove, so close to a dead even. But it's been completely flat for the last 3 months or so. It's as if the public has kind of taken a deep breath and is waiting to see what happens next with the economy before they decide whether to blame him for bad times or give him credit maybe if the recession tends to end and starts to grow. But we've really been stalled and stagnant there without much change.
So that might be surprising to some folks because we had the summer of drama, town halls and death panels and all of the major hits he was taking, but there was actually a flattening over the summer?
Yes, it's quite surprising. If all you did was watch cable news for the month of August, you would assume that Obama's approval across the board had just been plummeting as angry people showed up at town halls. But in fact, if anything, it looks like there was a little bit of a rebound in August, that it may be that all of that anger produced a rebound from pro-Obama forces, or it may be that it was simply not a widespread anger with the president that was being reflected at the town halls. Now, it's certainly true his approval rating has come down from the 60-plus range that it was early in his term to about 52 or so, 52 or 53 right now. But it's been holding steady, and it was holding steady through August. The other side is a lot of that protest had to do with health care reform, but support there bottomed out in mid-August and has climbed a bit, about 5 or 6 points since.
So, say more about that. It's hard to measure, right, what Americans actually think of health care reform, the Obama plan. Is there an Obama plan? What are attitudes? What are the fundamental attitudes on health care reform and the different parts of it?
I think the easiest way to think about that is virtually none of us have read the bill and have a detailed view of it. And so we are driven by who we trust to support this side or oppose that side. And that's where approval of President Obama's handling of health care is a good indicator. For people who approve of that, they're likely to go along with the things he's supporting. For people who disapprove, they're likely to go away from him. And there we've seen this decline in his approval rating on health care, but that bottomed out in August and it's now risen about 5 or 6 points. So that right now 48% disapprove, 46% approve, essentially a dead heat and some improvement for the president. But I think the pro-reform forces are making a mistake if they think this will be easy to pass with a deadlocked public. We've really not seen the big joint session of Congress speech that he gave change the game. All it did was help bring it back to even, not close the deal with the public.
So both with President Obama's approval and attitudes on health care, you've made the point that there's significant variance. I mean, we have a gross number there, a total aggregate number there, but there's significant variance among different subgroups. Talk to me a little bit about where there's variance on both attitudes towards President Obama and attitudes towards health care.
It clearly depends on how you ask the question as well on health care, but where we see within groups, probably the single most important group on health care and overall is approval among older voters, people 65 and over, for 2 reasons. One is that's a group that really participates. They're activated on the issues, and they're very concerned about what health care reform might do to their Medicare benefits. And there President Obama has his lowest approval rating of any age group is among people 65 and over. But since late August, his approval rating has stopped falling among people 65 and over and has rebounded about 5%. It still doesn't put him out of the woods with seniors who are more disapproving than approving right now, but he changed the trajectory that had been moving strongly against him.
So Democrats have a strong majority in Congress, but they also have a significant number of members who are from districts that maybe they shouldn't be representing. And what I mean by that is districts that are typically won by Republicans may have been won by John McCain the last time around. It's some very interesting recent data on Obama's approval rating in those more than a handful of districts, which are really going to decide healthcare reform and are going to decide the 2010 congressional elections. Because that's what the political professionals in Washington are paying attention to. They're not paying attention to the district in Madison, they're paying attention to the swing districts.
That's exactly right, and these so-called blue dog Democrats are the prime example of the swing group that Obama needs to keep. Because the Democrats gained so many seats in 2006 and 2008, over 50 seats that they picked up in that period, they've got a lot of people representing, as you said, districts that went for John McCain, even a few districts that went both for George Bush and John McCain. And so those districts are made up of more conservative voters, and even among Democrats in those districts, they're conservative and moderate Democrats. It's critical that the president appeal to those kinds of Democrats, and the interesting thing is he's doing very well there. Even among Democrats who call themselves conservative, his approval rating is over 70%. And among moderate Democrats, it's over 80%. So if these blue dog Democrats look back to their more conservative districts and their more moderate to conservative Democratic supporters, they actually have a lot of support for the president there that I think blue dogs might take some comfort in and believe that they can afford to support the president on controversial things like health care, but also the energy bill and tax and trade that's coming up, and a variety of other things to do with the economy. It's critical for him to hold on to those people.
So there's members of Congress that matter, and there's members of Congress who really matter. So let me change gears a little bit to the international arena. So recently on Office Hours, we had our colleagues John Peavy-House and Katja Favretto talk about Afghanistan. Last question here. Could you give us a brief update about what President Obama, as we speak, is making decisions about what the United States strategy is going to be in Afghanistan? Where are the American people on that?
Right. If health care was Obama's big problem over the summer, Afghanistan is shaping up to be the big political problem of the fall. Support for his handling of Afghanistan was over 60% in the spring, even after he sent 17,000 new troops into Afghanistan. But since that time, it has fallen sharply to only 45% approval, and that reflects both Democrats who are very reluctant to send more troops in, who had opposed President Bush's wars in both Iraq and Afghanistan, but now who are not being persuaded by President Obama that further troop commitments is a good thing to do. And the beginning of a desertion among conservatives. George Will, the columnist, the most prominent among those, who have now reversed 7.5 years of support for the war to oppose further troops or even to argue for a pullback. So that sharp decline of more than 15 percentage points in support for his handling of Afghanistan is a real danger. Now, it's interesting that his overall approval on foreign policy has remained strong and indeed is even stronger than his overall approval rating. But on Afghanistan, people are making a sharp distinction between how he handles foreign relations and how he's dealing with the Afghanistan situation itself. He's going to have some major breakthroughs in support. And at a meeting with congressional leaders recently, it was the Republicans who sounded more supportive than the Democrats. President Obama's in a bad way when it's the Republicans that are his strongest support.
Charles, thank you for joining us on Office Hours. All of you, thank you for joining us on Office Hours for this public opinion update. If you want more excellent data and analysis on public opinion in America, you can check out pollster.com. If you want to see other Office Hours shows, please check out officehours.polysci.wisc.edu. Thanks for stopping by.